Ring ring, it's time for another episode of Crossplay Conversations, the show where we dive deep into the world of video games while keeping it light. I'm your host, Joseph Hooper, and today I'm joined by my two co-hosts for the first time in a long time, the resident bartender, Luke Lewis, who has a nice little mocktail with him today.
Howdy gamers. Cheers to your favorite beverages. This is a pog juice, as we were describing before. Passion fruit. Everybody loves it. Staying refreshed this showcase season.
Especially the Irishman, Jacob McCourt.
I'm ready to see the light of video games.
What is that? Is that your phone?
It's just another light. I'm going to hit you with another light.
Oh, I was about to say, the brightness on your phone is crazy.
Hey, thanks.
How are we all doing today?
I'm feeling good, to be honest. It was really fun to just consume a bunch of video game content this weekend and feel like I was 12 years old and it was E3 weekend again. The energy is high. How about y'all?
Same. I have fond memories of just hunkering down by the TV to see what GameSpot or IGN was doing. So much so that I have old DVDs of like E3 shows from GameSpot on my shelf somewhere here.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, I feel good. I think video games are bad and video games are back. And we'll talk about that later.
We will talk about that later. I'm with you guys. It felt like a long weekend. A lot of showcases, a lot of hours of consuming video game trailers, but a lot of good in there. A lot of surprises, a lot of maybe expectations that were either met or not met. So without further ado, let's jump into our icebreaker. What was your singular favorite announcement or trailer of the weekend? I will start with none other than the Irishman, Jacob McCourt.
Jacob McCourt. I just got back from a week in Ireland, and I'm a citizen, so I'm allowed to do that. That's permitted.
That's right.
I would say my favorite announcement actually came before Summer Game Fest really began, in the old PlayStation State of Play that happened right before SGF. I think the thing that popped me the most was when I saw Dacre Montgomery and went, wait a second, this looks familiar. And then why is Neil Newbaum here? Oh, wait, it's because Until Dawn 2. That announcement got me real hard. So nope, let's take that back. It got me really excited for video games.
Hey.
It's been some years since, and look, it's not the original developer. It's Firesprite. But hopefully it carries that same energy as an Until Dawn or as a game from Supermassive. So I'm stoked for it, and I think it's coming next year. It's not that far off.
Yeah. I thought that trailer was awesome as well. We were messaging back and forth while we were watching the showcase, and I thought that was a trailer for a Getaway remake on PS2 because it was given that like tropical vacation mystery intrigue. But yeah, I think the new setting looks pretty neat. I'm excited.
I definitely went, that's a new Supermassive game, and I was sort of right.
Yeah.
Kind of. This is interesting, because I never played Until Dawn, although I've heard good things, but I did play The Quarry, and I really enjoyed The Quarry. Also, I've never played any other Supermassive games, so this is kind of it seems like with these style of games, it's been hit or miss. I know some people like other installments, some people only like Until Dawn, or The Quarry or whatever. So I'm curious to see how this new studio will deliver on that experience. So, yeah, that was a good one. I enjoyed that announcement. Luke?
I think my favorite, I gotta shout out the shared experience. So for listeners, Joseph, you came to my home and watched the Xbox showcase with Claire and I, which we realized was the first time any of us have watched a showcase together in person over the years, which feels kind of insane. So my favorite moment was the Fable trailer, because I've never seen anyone as excited as you were during the Fable trailer. And I was also excited. I thought it was a great trailer overall, but it was just like that fun shared experience of it. So I'll shout out that one.
Holy moly. I'm gonna be honest. One of my favorite trailers of all time. I really like that trailer.
Wow, really?
I'm really high on it. I think, and I'll just segue into this so I can talk about it. I was gonna say, sure. I think I also was gonna say the Fable trailer, so this is good.
I didn't mean to steal your moment. It's your moment.
No, this is perfect.
I'm
this is
celebrating
perfect. We can save some time here. The way that it started off, where like the tone is just completely Like it's a quiet monologue. You're trying to figure out what's going on. The Haley Atwell reveal, and I'm like, wait, what is happening? And then the Playground Games logo, and you're like, come on. I was very hyped about that. I've been into the Fable trailers and the Dev Direct and all that stuff. I've been hyped on it. And I think the thing that really sealed it for me in this trailer was the tone. I felt like struck perfectly, where you hear her doing this monologue. She's talking about how she got her powers, whatever that means in this world. And then she flips it halfway through the monologue talking about, oh, all your friends? Oh, yeah, they're not the real heroes. I'm the real hero. Like, I need to, like, set this place straight. And it gave me a lot of, like, Thanos vibes of, like, hey, I'm doing the right thing here. You guys just don't understand. And that made me very excited that Fable will not just have a bad guy who's like, hey, I have evil energy and I'm doing evil stuff. There's clearly some developments, and also just the other cutscenes of just seeing the character models and what seemingly looks like real actors genuinely interacting with one another also got me really excited. And I am realizing between this and God of War Laufey that I'm just a fantasy sicko. Like, I feel like I rode the line on sci-fi and fantasy for a long time, but this weekend has outed me. I'm a big fantasy guy, so I'm ready.
It's interesting because I'm not a fantasy guy, and I think both of those trailers didn't do much for me. Or like the demonstration of God of War Laufey and the Fable trailer. Although I did say, oh wow, Haley Atwell, that looks exactly like you. That's great.
It did look
the
like
trailer didn't do much for me. But again, I'm not someone who's played Fable. I'm not someone who has sort of a connection to the series. So I think that kind of makes sense.
I think from that perspective, the reason I was excited about the God of War trailer was like when they were talking about, oh yeah, all the gods are here. From a fantasy perspective in my mind, I'm like, oh, the possibilities are limitless. Like, we have all these little lore bits we can pull from, and that also got me excited. But we got a lot of trailers that I'm sure may have gotten us excited or not excited. So I kind of want to go through our favorite games that were announced, and then we'll talk about kind of the showcases at large. There were far too many announcements to go through every single one. So we'll kind of boil it down and then have like a bigger discussion. Starting with Jacob, who did not like the Fable reveal, but he did like another big reveal. Jacob, you want to kick us off here?
Some might say it was the final reveal in SGF, and Jeff said the final reveal a couple of times. Shout out Jeff for that. Continuing the Final Fantasy bit, I guess, through his shows. But Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 Revelation got revealed, and it looks like they're making a third one of those games. I appreciate that it is coming out in 2027. I for sure thought if they're showing this off, this is a 2028 game. But this game comes out like Q1 of 27. It is It is cooking. Like, we're getting this soon, and we got to see the battle system and the characters and, some of the Ultima. Again, I'm not a Final Fantasy VII OG person, but some of, like, the Ultima beasts or whatever they call them that are, like, enormous bosses in this thing. Matt Mercer was on stage to introduce it, and I was shocked I think Jeff played about the safest play you could play after the TGAs and how they ended that show, with just 15 minutes of 4 sets of trailers for Final Fantasy VII Revelation. Did this one do anything for you guys, or was it just me?
I was definitely excited. I think I was most impressed, to your point, of the 15 minutes of just how much was shown. Like, we got story intros stuff, we got overall world building, we had Matt Mercer come out, we saw combat gameplay. Like, there was a lot to break down for the Final Fantasy VII fans. I'm in a weird place with this announcement where I'm excited about the game objectively, but I fell off of Rebirth in such a hard way that now I'm like, okay, I gotta pick that one back up before I'm able to jump into this one and really get excited for the story. And everything they were saying about this one being the biggest open world they've ever designed and all these buzzwords, I'm like, oh no, that's not... That was kind of my issue with Rebirth. But that said, everything they showed.
But Luke, what if
stunning.
there was more filler? Would you like that?
I think Joseph and I were talking about this in person yesterday, but I think where I come down on it is I'm just going to main path it for the most part. And I'll check a guide of, like, if there are any really notable side quests, I'll play those. But I'm just going to experience the main story and not do a lot of the side stuff, because that's kind of what broke me, was trying to 100% it and then getting burned out. But I don't want to sound negative because everything they showed looks stunning, and I love the cutscenes, and obviously the characters are amazing, and the world and the music. Like it's Final Fantasy VII. Come on, it looks great.
Yeah, I'm also pretty hyped for this one. I feel like, I don't know who I was talking about with this, but the reveal, I feel like for 7 was such a big moment because it was like, oh, this is a remake. The reveal for number 2 was a big moment because it was like, oh, the open world is actually insane. For me, the reveal for number 3 kind of felt like more of 2. So there was nothing in the trailer that like blew my mind. But I'm assuming that because there's so much time out from the actual launch, that we will probably get a little more of that, like, hey, things aren't what it seems, closer to the launch. I'm assuming this is like spoiler stuff, but like all the things that they showed looked fantastic. I think Vincent looked sick. Sid looked sick. I'm excited to play this. I am a little trepidatious, especially next year is going to be just a busy year in general. I'm getting married. Do I have time to play a Final Fantasy Revelation? I don't know if I do, but I will.
Honey, I have to finish the story.
Yeah.
As someone who just got married last summer, you don't. You won't.
I remember I was trying to finish Rebirth whatever year that it came out, and I was like trying to get to the end right before like a big international trip I went on. And I was like, I must be almost done. And I was in this fucking maze for what felt like hours. I'm like, what? This is impossible. Why would they do this at the end? So to Jacob's point, I hope they don't add a ton of more filler and it is like the greatest hits on the end.
Yeah, I played that Rebirth for 71 hours, and I was like,
Jesus
I wish
Christ.
this was 25 hours shorter.
Yeah, 100%.
And really, it's almost like they should have only made 2 games, but I digress. We're excited for it. And it's spring. I misspoke. It's spring 2027. There is no date.
Well, I think we can all agree on is that was a pretty clutch reveal for Jeff to get to end his showcase. So, Luke, do you want to kind of talk about another clutch reveal?
I sure do. So for my 3 games that I'm highlighting, I tried to pick games that genuinely just caught me off guard and I had no knowledge of existing prior to the show. So the first one I'm shouting out was also during the SGF showcase, and this is a game called Clutch by Maverick Games. This is an open world action racing game from a bunch of ex-Forza devs. The premise is very narrative focused, at least the way the trailer is presented, and it just looks really graphically beautiful, and it's set in the French Riviera, and I'm kind of just excited for kind of a return to that like PS2 360 era of like weird unconventional racing game. I think it's fun to get something different. I think it's fun to have sort of a narrative focus to it. Yeah, and coming off of Forza Horizon and the announcement of Stuntman Hollywood at the
Hell yeah
PlayStation State of Play, I'm just excited for more weird offbeat racing games, and this one looks really cool.
Yeah,
it gave me
I
big
was really
vibes
impressed
from.
by the... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jacob.
It gave me big vibes from when the EA sports games were doing story modes.
Yeah,
for
like
a while.
The long shot campaign.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly the vibe I got, which is not a negative one.
Or like the old Fight Night games, like Fight Night Round 4 and Fight Night Champion, like those games, how they used to incorporate narrative stuff that was like legitimately well done. And with the Forza pedigree behind this, I'm like, this could have the sauce.
Yeah, it seemed like a pretty big swing for a first game. Like they had Lil Sims, a very popular UK rapper, as like a featured, I don't know, like main character in the series. And like, yeah, it all looked very cinematic on top of what I assume is going to be some very prestige gameplay. So this could be a really big one. I hope it kind of delivers on that trailer.
Is that the racing game that had the Killers song in the trailer itself too?
I think so.
I think so.
But the remix, and you can't hold on, that one?
I couldn't name one single Killer song, I'm going to be honest with you here.
I
apologize.
I'm 90% sure. Yeah, I think that was it. But yeah, it was
Trust
a cool trailer.
The white guys got Killers. We got it.
Yeah. But yeah, interesting vibes. Keeping an eye on it. This one's coming 2027, so it's still cooking, but intrigued.
Yeah. Honestly, really magical trailer. And to kind of keep up with the theme of magical trailers, I'm going to talk about my game. Probably one of my favorite reveals of the weekend was Magicians: The Devil's Deal. This was in the Xbox showcase by Uppercut Games, published by Focus Interactive. It is effectively what if BioShock, but instead of BioShock, demons and magic. And I'm very impressed, one, because I was looking at it and they do their whole spiel about what the game is about, and then they jump into like this CGI action, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, are we going to see what the game looks like? And the game cuts the gameplay, and I'm like, oh, this kind of looks like the CGI. Like, it's pretty close to what they... I don't even know if they need a CGI at all. So that was great. And then also just the concept of how did we not ever do this? Like, FPS being so popular back in the 360 era, how did we not get to FPS but just magic and throwing card gambit style, all that stuff? So the fact that we saw this, and I'm like, of course, this is brilliant. BioShock vibes, magic, say less. And the fact that the game from that trailer looked very good. I don't know how much of that is gonna, translate into the actual game, but I'm sold here. So that one was a nice surprise, and I hope somebody played it at SGF and can talk about it. Who knows? But I really do want to learn a lot more about this one.
What I appreciate about Focus is Focus ends up finding these diamonds in the rough, typically like the European diamonds in the rough. I think often of Plague Tale and how I believe they were the ones that sort of published those games. And this gave me AA goodness vibes. And I was shocked when we flipped from CGI to gameplay as well.
Yeah. We'll kind of get back to this, but I was kind of really looking for more of these type of reveals this weekend. I feel like we didn't get as many as we usually do, where it's like, oh, this studio is kind of in that AA range and they're taking a big swing. That's kind of how I felt about Expedition 33 a couple years ago, where everybody kind of stopped and said, whoa, if this actually is what it's saying it is, this could be crazy. And it then ended up being one of the biggest games in the world for a year. So hopefully this hits all the right BioShock vibes, and this developer really kind of hits it out of the park. With that being said, though, we had a big reveal earlier in the week. I guess it wasn't a reveal. We had Wolverine gameplay, but I think he did actually say his iconic line, his iconic word, nickname, Bub. But we're not here to talk about Wolverine. I'm going to see how many of these I can keep going.
The segues today.
We're going to talk about just Bub itself, Jacob.
Yeah, Bub is a game that was in Day of the Devs. It's from Paper Frog. It's coming Q4 27. It's like two things that I'll cover on this one. The first, the art style. It is a narrative adventure game, but the art, it's essentially made by two folks principally, from what I had understood from the trailer. But the art style is, sometimes it's papercraft, sometimes it's painted, sometimes it's what appears to be like drawn. And what I implore you to do after this, or even as you're watching this podcast, pull up the trailer for Bub if you've not seen it. It is so impressive to see all the different vignettes that they pull together. And I just want to see, regardless of what the gameplay of this thing is, if it's gameplay light, I just want to see this thing in action. And then I think what we learned from the Day of the Devs trailer, and guys, keep me honest here, is that one of the devs was either, did they have MS themselves, or they were dealing with someone that had MS?
They got MS,
yeah.
Yeah, and so just this really sad story that's being told as you see this beautiful game that's just in front of us here. So, and it's a story about is it a story about friendship between them, or a story about finding art? It's it's crazy. It's crazy to see.
Yeah, this is one of those visually striking ones that I feel like when you start to see it explained or revealed, you're like, oh wow, they really went for it. And it's of course it's always these really small teams that do these really craft intensive games. I feel like we always get one of those each year with either Phonopolis or Harold Halibut, and it's kind of just one of those hats off to you. This is great, and you guys are what's keeping the art and the integrity of kind of those small games alive. So shout out to them.
it's a story of, I guess, the two creators, or the Day of the Devs vignette is about their friendship, but the story is about like losing your gifts, if you will. But it even features music from someone from the Japanese Breakfast as well. So like, just pedigree. Brooklyn, shout out Brooklyn.
Yeah, visually, this was one of those that I was just like, how is this real? How is this a moving, interactable thing? Yeah, and it was super impressive. I can't wait to play it. This is one of those, I hope it's that perfect, like, 2 to 4 hour afternoon game. Like, this, it'd be perfect. But I'm ready.
I do not. I'm out of segues. I don't know how I would possibly segue into this next game. So, Luke, just give us your next pick.
Next big surprise from SGF for me was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from Platinum Games. This one blew me away. I'm a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. Obviously, we didn't see much from the trailer, but just knowing that this exists, I just finished 007 First Light over the weekend, and to me, this is a similar, like, perfect developer pairing with a cool game license. The comic book that this is based on is super rad. It has such a dark, mature, defined art style and narrative. Combine that with the iconic, really well-regarded action pedigree of Platinum. I'm just beyond excited for this.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those that I'm like, I hope we like get some updates on this sooner rather than later, because whenever you just show me, hey, we're working on this game, we're all bets are off. Anything can happen. So I'm like, all right, you got us hyped. Don't let us down. Let's just keep the momentum up, and hopefully we see this in like a year or two, or maybe at the next SGF next year, we may see some actual gameplay. So, but if we actually see something, I might get hyped, because this is the one story from the TMNT world that I feel like is right up my alley.
Yeah, and Platinum's has sort of been cooking again. I think there was a middle couple of years, like the mid 2010s to 2020, where you were just like, is Platinum gonna be okay? And then it was like Bayonetta Origins, Ninja Gaiden 4, Astral Chain was in there. They co-developed the combat on Final Fantasy 16, and so I think we can say they're fully back. And so to have them take on the last Ronin stories, yeah, I'm interested, super interested.
You know who else has gone platinum? Laufey, the artist. And you know what else sounds like Laufey? Laufey. God of War Laufey. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but I will say there are obviously like rumors about this swirling, and I couldn't be happier with how the rumors turned out. I feel like the 2.5D God of War like rumor really burned me. When I saw the gameplay, I was like, oh, this is not for me at all. And they said that this God of War game was going to be more like Devil May Cry like, X, Y, and Z. And from the way it was described, I didn't know if I was going to be down with whatever they showed, because I'm not typically into those Devil May Cry type games. But best case scenario, it's not a prequel, which means like the story is going to have some significance to the overall saga of this Norse trilogy or duology or whatever you want to call it. The story seems pretty interesting, of like, we have all these different gods coming in. People keep talking about, hey, all the people Kratos killed are probably going to show up and want to get their lick back on his wife. That sounds weird, but and Jack Quaid is a cube, just a random cube. I know people feel different ways about the cube, but I'm like, hey, if we want to get a little weird, let's get a little weird.
People not like the cube? Wait, I've avoided that discourse.
I think people are divided on the cube. Just the cube. People don't know the story of the cube, so I'm down for Frank. I like that she's punching people's souls out of their bodies and beating the hell out of their souls. Like, it's just like max tier smackdown. And for people that played Ragnarok, and specifically, there's this like a very big optional area in Ragnarok where they're talking about, yeah, Faye just had a fight with like a dragon, and they just like fought all around this area and destroyed this giant massive area. So they kind of set her up to be like, she's a real one. So I'm excited to see the limits they push this character in the story, and I'm very excited to see a character other than Kratos and what emotional story they're going to tell there. So, and I'm also thinking, that's a spoiler. I won't say that, but there's a lot of dead characters in the franchise that I'm interested to see if they pop back up. I'll say that.
I mean, people have been talking about like, hey, but what if this character from the original trilogy came back and you ended up fighting them in the new game? And that'd be cool. I don't know how y'all feel. Well, I do know how y'all feel, but I feel like I'm maybe the person who doesn't feel as hot on this. And it's not. Look, I'm not saying like, it's because there's a girl. Like, I promise you, that's not what it's about.
Wow, truth comes out.
You guys know, and there's a podcast somewhere in this feed that talks about how I wasn't like God of War Ragnarok was on my list of top 10 games, but it was near the bottom the year it came out, and I just wasn't as hot on it as I was 2018. I think 2018 is an all timer, and then Ragnarok is just kind of a step down for me. And so to have this game just be another game, yes, it's a new protagonist, but it's sort of the same, first person camera that follows you around. We're probably striking a similar tone. I just kind of wish they were doing something different. That's all. And they are. Cory Barlog is doing something different. But I just kind of like, maybe it's not for me.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Luke.
Oh, no worries. I was just going to jump in and say that I don't disagree with the idea that, like, if I was going to pull, like, my ideal next God of War game out of a hat, I don't think this is it. But the thing is, I almost kind of like that because I don't think I would have pitched 2018 as the game I wanted. So I'm kind of just very curious to see what the devs are going to do with this new character, with this kind of new twist and setting that is very open-ended. I was really interested about the idea of going back to Greek mythology with Kratos, so the idea that they could kind of loop in some of that into this in interesting ways could be cool. What I hope it's not is, I don't know if this is like a spoiler, but Last of Us Part 2 as a concept, I hope it's not like retreading material of 2018 and Ragnarok in a way that's like, remember when Kratos and Atreus did that? Now we're here in a new context. Like, I don't want it to be that, but if it's this, I feel like they're setting a kind of a new journey with new wrinkles and interesting direction thus far, so I'm intrigued. Also, I stand Jack Quaid and everything, so just hyped to see him be in a Santa Monica Studios game.
Did I tell you that I started The Boys at all? I don't think I did.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we've talked about that.
Yeah. We're into season 2. We're like season 2, episode 7. So we're
all right.
It's just weird timing for me to have started The Boys and then Jack Quaid as Cube.
Nice. No, that's awesome. Yeah, and he's been on a tear with like some fun movies in the last couple of years, like Novocaine, and I'm trying to remember the other horror one, Companion.
Companion was great.
Yeah, like he's been in some cool movies, so he's doing neat stuff. So,
last thing I'll say about this, I agree with Jacob that I was not as high on Ragnarok as I was on 2018, but I'm hoping this is the Miles Morales to Spider-Man 2018, because I wasn't as high on Spider-Man 2 as I was on the original Spider-Man, but I really enjoyed Miles Morales because it was just different enough, but also same enough. So that's kind of where I'm at here, where I'm like, I'm hoping that the story kind of shrinks down a bit. Once again, we do explore different mythologies, and we kind of, Laufey can have her own story while being loosely connected to Kratos's. If it does become a greatest hits thing, I don't think, because I didn't play the original God of War, so I don't even have a connection there. But at least based off.
Well, let me tell you about another product coming from the Sony Corporation. God of War trilogy.
Soon enough, I'll be able to retread that ground. But yeah, we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic, and hopefully we see it next year. If we don't see it next year, there's going to be a little wind coming out of my sails if like next state of play after Wolverine we don't get that date. So
can I tell you what it is right now, and we can put it in stone and
sure.
Refer to it. This is a spring 28 game.
I'll be very sad if that's true. I'll be very sad.
Sorry, guys.
I'm saying a holiday 27, just for records.
I'm with holiday 27 too, but I'm also with Signet City. Let's go to Signet City real quick, Jacob. That was a bad one.
Yeah, Look, this is the new game from Gareth, Damian Martin, and I think I still have to thank you, Hooper, for turning me on to Citizen Sleeper. Citizen Sleeper 1 is one of my all-timers, like all-time favorite games of all time now, easy. And 2 was fantastic when it came out about 18 months ago. And so this is the new game from him. It is a entirely different story. It's about mushroom people. And it's a first-person game versus a like traditional CRPG. And so just that world that's being built about... almost like possessing people as a mushroom entity. That's my understanding of it. So that pitch gets me. I'm in. Signet City. Who knows when it's coming out? It's a ways off.
Okay. This one I was surprised. I think, Luke, we saw this together at the PC. Actually, I think we did see this review.
Yeah, I think this is one of the tail end ones that we saw before we had to bounce.
They're calling it a fungal punk RPG.
A fungal punk. Okay.
I like the art style a lot, and the like kind of like sketch pencil black and white look is quite distinct and cool. But yeah, at this point, Citizen Sleeper team, I'm in. Let's see what you're cooking. I'm excited to really care about this world that I know nothing about. So sign me up.
Yeah, I'm assuming this game's got to be years out.
I'm not the biggest fan of the black and white color scheme, but we have a lot of time to sell me. So if the story is just that good, then I'll play it in black and white with no complaints. But we got to see. Moving on, Mr. Records, Mr. Lewis, your final game here.
Y'all, I'm so excited to talk about this game. This game was announced and I was like, this is about to be my whole personality. So folks who don't know, Mr. Records was announced at Day of the Devs. In a succinct pitch, it's one part psychedelic music platform rhythm game meets record shop sim. And you play as this little cute old man, George, and he has an adorable dog with a really funky, awesome soundtrack. It's made by a small indie team. The trailer and presentation of it just immediately sold me. The world is so colorful and fun. And the ties of music to everything intricately involved in the game, I just thought was really, really neat. They made all of the music. The dev team did. Part of the trailer, they have this amazing breakdown of how they made the music with different layered tracks and instruments all popping in. Just really well done overall in terms of the presentation, but immediately sold me on this is a weird, trippy, cool, vibey game that I immediately want as soon as possible.
It really felt like it was at the intersection of Melatonin and Moonlighter.
Ooh,
yeah.
I like that compare. Yeah, no, that's very good.
Yeah, when they went into the shop and they talked about like selling the records or buying the records, I was like, oh, okay, this is a cool angle that I think takes the concept kind of to the next level. So
yeah,
should be
because
cool.
it looked cool just as psychedelic platformer, but to have that other wrinkle, I think gives it some added depth and some character and some cool little narrative things they could do. This is from Glee Cheese Studio.
Love some Glee cheese.
And this is their third game. I think that they had done 2 others that they called out.
They did Headbangers, Rhythm Royale, and then A Musical Story, which was originally an iOS game that I played. I think it came out in 2022, but I really enjoyed it at the time. A cool, kind of more visual novel rhythm experience. But yeah, so they have some pedigree, but I think this is their most like complex game. I don't mean that in a negative way, but I think this is the most like intricate pieces and like production design. So super intrigued.
Small non sequitur, Luke. Have you played Waxheads yet?
No, but I am very aware of Waxheads and I want to play it. As it also ties in because I just got a record player for my birthday and I've been collecting vinyl the last couple of weeks. Like I'm ready. This is great. We're in our record player espresso drinking 30s era in this household.
All right, let me close us out here with Oh My Doug. This game definitely caught me off guard. I believe I saw it in the mix. This is kind of like a Cuphead art style meets Ren and Stimpy meets Osmosis Jones in terms of the story. So Effectively, the description says, when Doug decides to get in shape, the tiny inhabitants inside him think the world is ending. Explore, fight, and shoot your way through the body of a middle-aged man trying to get rid of you. I don't know. This game just looks incredibly wacky, incredibly... It just seems like it has a lot of personality. Like, you're not going to find this anywhere else. Nobody's making anything else remotely like this. And my only hesitation is I really hope that the gameplay and the platforming really feels great, because everything else seems fantastic. Like, the humor seems there, like the art style seems there. The music, I don't remember the music in the trailer, but I hope that's also hitting. But yeah, this is one of the very nice surprises. Before SGF even started, I think the mix, whenever the mix was, I immediately noted this down and added it to my wish list.
I hadn't seen this one before, so thank you for flagging it. Oh my Doug. This feels like the next Hooper game like Haunty, where you were just the biggest advocate of Haunty, and you're just going to get behind this one and be like, oh my Doug, and make it your personality for 14 days.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say that'll be my catchphrase. I'll just be saying, oh my Doug. I don't even know how's this supposed to be said? Like, oh my Doug, or oh my Doug. I need to talk to the developers on that, get some answers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's wrap up that section of talking about our favorite games. Now, I want to zoom out a little bit and kind of talk about the showcases at large, specifically State of Play, SGF, Xbox, and Direct has not happened yet. Spoiler alert for the people that are listening to this. But I kind of want to take it through phases. All right, I kind of want to set the stage of like what we typically look for in a showcase. I don't know if it's different depending on who's putting the showcase on, but then we'll kind of dig into each showcase specifically and see how they met our expectations or what we would have changed to make them better. So let's kind of start there. Jacob, I feel like you're going to have the hottest takes here. I think Luke and I both need to be able to get into your mind here. So SGF weekend, what are you looking for when you sit down for these big showcases? What's on your checklist of like, this is what makes Jacob happy?
I think with SGF, to start, the thing that I always go in expecting is a B show. We all know that the Game Awards is where the biggest announcements come in, so I always think SGF is the A show. Game Awards is the A show, SGF is the B show, the Gamescom Opening Night Live is the C show. But with that, I think my expectations is a tight show with a couple of announcements, and I hope there's not a lot of filler involved in the show. I think out of all three, Summer Game Fest, the PlayStation Showcase, and the Xbox Showcase, I think Summer Game Fest was actually the strongest show.
Okay.
Beat for beat.
Okay.
It had a couple of big announcements. It had a couple of, gameplay demos that we've not gotten before. But I think most importantly, we typically have anime blocks in these shows or things that just slow down the pacing. And I think there was very few things in there that I had zero interest in. So I just want to shout out SGF. And yes, did we get some of the cool, funky indie stuff that we normally get in like a pre-show for the Game Awards? We did not. But we ended up getting some cool stuff. So, I think this is probably the best SGF that's ever happened. Either best or second best. And I think having it be in the theater it was in also helped with the pacing of a show, getting it closer to what we expect with the Game Awards. And look, I think Lucy James being there as a permanent co-host is the right move, and I'm glad it was made.
Luke, what are your expectations going into the weekend?
I feel like, just going off of what Jacob was saying, I feel like I'm kind of the opposite in a sense of I'm like blank slate to some extent. I don't really think about like what has previously been announced or like what level of announcements we typically see at X, Y, and Z show. I think with more of like the platform specific ones like PlayStation and Xbox, I am like, oh, we'll probably get updates on blank, blank, blank. Like I have more assumptions. With an indie focus show like a Day of the Devs or The Mix, I'm completely blank slate in the sense that like there could be literally anything here, and I'm ready to kind of be surprised. And everything is just kind of building on that in terms of like how many announcements got me super excited as far as like how would I like score the show. And SGF itself is an interesting one because I feel like all of Jeff's shows teeter on this like threshold of having some really compelling, cool, big announcements for the mainstream, having a sponsored block that maybe isn't as our cup of tea, but is important to some folks out there, and then maybe an indie surprise or two. And I feel like he hits that pretty consistently year in, year out. So I give him credit there. But yeah, I would say overall this year, like, I came in with an open mind, generally speaking.
Nice. I will say I lean a little bit more towards Jacob in terms of what I'm expecting. But I guess the way I look at it when SGF week rolls around is from all of the big showcases, from all the people that charge a lot of money, I'm kind of expecting each showcase to fill in this picture of what the next year plus of gaming looks like. And when you're talking about platform specific like PlayStation and Xbox, I expect them to show a lot of third parties, but also what the future of PlayStation, what the future of Xbox looks like within the next year or so. And from Jeff's perspective, it's kind of just like I cut him some slack because I know you can only get what you can get, and you kind of get scraps from PlayStation and Xbox when they don't have deals. But I do expect some answers in the Jeff showcase. So that's usually what I'm looking for, is like looking to the future, or, you know, in some cases release dates of things we don't really know where they're going to land. Jumping right into SGF, since we already kind of talked about it, I do agree with Jacob that this was, in my opinion, probably the best one that I can think of. I think the announcements were pretty strong. It ended with not high guard. And I think my only thing with SGF is that, and this is just going to be something that I have to live with, is that 2 hours is a really long time to just be watching trailers. And when we saw Tupac come out, I was just like, okay, what are we doing here? And then for me personally, the announcements kind of stalled a little bit in terms of like, we had this cube-like game with Hex, the multiplayer co-op thing, and I'm like, I don't really know what this is. I still don't know what it is.
I can't even spell it.
Yeah. Who knows how to spell it? So we kind of had a couple of those, and then there was this moment where Jeff was like, this anime that you guys have all been excited about, and it's Attack on Titan 3, and I was like, oh man, like there were just a couple of like stalling out moments where I'm like, dang, this could have been hyped, but this kind of just fell into the okay
I was
block.
hyped for Attack on Titan 3 because it's I guess the first game that's told the story from end to end, and so I was like, oh, that's cool. So that didn't lose me.
I was also hyped for the weird Hex co-op thing, because I was like, I don't know what this is, and I'm interested. But that was,
and I think that's probably the good thing about this showcase, like Jacob was saying. Certain games, I feel like, even in that block in the middle, I feel like still had their target audiences, whereas typically they are like, oh, somebody paid to get Clash of Clans here type vibe. So I do appreciate that. That being said, when you strip out like what I would consider like the really big announcements, like Wolf Among Us 2 and Final Fantasy and Resident Evil Code, there were a lot of really big announcements that I feel like rival any SGF and even a lot of Game Awards, respectively.
Yeah.
What are other thoughts about SGF, Luke?
I super agree. I think overall it was a very strong show. I mean, I'm looking at a roundup article right now, and just to rattle off a few: Resident Evil Veronica, 2 new games from MDHR Cuphead team, Alien Isolation 2, new Ueda game, Project Robot, shown in like great depth with him actually at the show. Like moments like that were like, any other year that would have been like the standout moment, but we had like a good 6 or 7 what I would consider standout moments. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but I did do it. But
1666 Amsterdam from Patrice Desilets.
That looks cool and weird and interesting. And
the TMNT Last Ronin revelation was there.
Sure.
we have feelings about the Gen AI shit in Crazy Taxi, but the Crazy Taxi announcement in the moment was surprising. The Stuntman announcement. Was it?
Wait, yeah.
Stuntman
now you're blending
you're right.
all
You're
in.
right.
Now we're mixing.
Oh gosh,
it's okay.
now I'm getting all my things.
There was a lot of
mixed up here.
showcases. No, you're fine.
Wolf Among Us 2, a
There
new
we go.
trailer there.
We're back on.
Announcement of the remaster. Zero Company for Star Wars getting that hype trailer.
Wait. Blood Rain or whatever it's called. Stellar Blade 2 or whatever. That was a sick trailer.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of my favorite trailers of that show.
That was SGF, yep. We
Which
also
is just
saw
boxing with bare fists.
I'm curious how y'all felt about it, but the That's No Moon game that was finally
Yeah.
shown.
I
Yes.
was interested in that.
Crossfire, but that's not the same Crossfire as Remedy's Crossfire, or is it the same?
It's the same series as Smilegate's
That's
Crossfire.
a weird choice.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like I've been following that studio forever, just of like notable people that left to then go do that. So I'm not sure how I feel about that game, but I'm intrigued to know more. Their big thing about the like adaptive cover, I don't feel like we saw enough to know if that's going to be cool or not. You know what I mean? But
I think The Last of Us 2 doesn't get enough credit for how they handled cover, and it reminded me a lot of the cover system in Last of Us 2, where it was that adaptive, where the character kind of slunk down, and that game doesn't get enough credit for a couple of things, including the cover system.
I need to rewatch that trailer of the game because I don't even remember what they were doing in the cover system.
they were saying how it's like it's so adaptive to the environment, and it showed the character like kind of ducking and squatting behind specific rocks and like really like maneuvering in a way that was like way more animated than just like a snap to cover, you know. There was more to it, but I feel like until I get hands on, it's a hard thing to like be impressed by, I guess.
Yeah. So moving on, I want to ask, from each of you, is there one or two things that you would say, hey, this would have taken up the show a notch if we would have did this or removed this or what have you?
I have one immediate thing for SGF, and this is no shade to Jeff or any showcase host in general, but I don't love interstitial host breaks between games. Like, I understand they have to happen sometimes, but it feels like, specifically in this SGF show, there was a ton of, wasn't that a great trailer? On to the next one, when it's like, couldn't we have saved that 5 to 10 seconds and like gone like 4 or 5 trailers in a row and then had one interstitial break? But it's a personal preference thing that I just think helps the show flow better, and we'll get into Xbox, I'm sure, but that showcase felt like so boom, 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 boom. Even if you didn't care about the given game, you were on to the next one so quickly that you didn't even really have time to worry about it in the same way.
And some of it is because they'll do some trailers back to back, but then you know, like, maybe this is not curated. This is a paid slot, and so I kind of get that a little bit. But
that's why I'm like, I'm not trying to. It's a personal preference, and like I get that you got to do it to some extent, but it does break the flow for me.
Jacob, you got any critiques?
No, I think that opening on Veronica was a great call. And so to open on Veronica, close on Revelation, and then wasn't the second announcement MDHR?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds right. That's
a great open close. And so, no, could it have been maybe 10 minutes shorter? Sure. But I think it was like just over 2, but that's all I had. I saw some folks complain online that they felt that they didn't do enough to introduce Day of the Devs to folks, which I don't agree with at all. I think they give them time on
year.
They're like, hey, Day of the Devs, stick around. And the thing broadly that we haven't mentioned that I think I've talked about before on SGF shows is the way that Jeff has sort of and his team have almost molded the schedule for the entire week so that everybody gets their moment and every showcase does not overlap. Do you remember 3 years ago when there was some showcases were going simultaneous? And I think that they've done a great job of manicuring the schedule too, so everybody gets their spot.
Also, to the Day of the Devs thing, Claire and I were watching on the official Game Awards YouTube channel, and Jeff's team blocked it so the full SGF live presentation was in the same VOD as Day of the Devs. So if you just kept watching that 3.5 hour block, it was all in one go, which I thought was a very cool, classy thing that he didn't have to do, but I definitely know it matters on the indie side for that type of visibility.
Sucks about the audio sync issues, but apart from that,
that's just
yeah.
I'll say that it's still too long for me. The 2 hours is a little too long, and I think it might also be because of some of the way the transitions come up, because it kind of like especially this year, because there was no ad block, I never really knew what was next and what was going to be like the hype thing. Like the Attack on Titan thing I thought was about to be crazy, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is chill. Similar to the Final Fantasy thing, I thought they were about to bring out Tetsuya, I thought they were going to bring out Nomura or show like something else, and then Matt Mercer came out, and I was like, why was this? There was kind of like a weird pause here going on. These are like super nitpicks though. Like when I truly think that this is about as good as an SGF legitimately can be from a third-party person putting this on. So I can live with it being 2 hours if we get these types of announcements every year. I want to move on or go back into the past to the State of Play, because that was kind of the thing that kicked off everything. It was before SGF. We saw a handful of announcements. Let's switch it up. Luke, I want to hear your overall thoughts on the State of Play. Where did that sit with you?
I was pretty pleasantly surprised. I thought what we saw was really solid across the board. Things I was hoping for some updates on, like Wolverine, I personally thought showed really well. I was excited to see some extended gameplay footage. There were plenty of cool surprises, like we mentioned, Until Dawn, getting to see a new Stuntman game I was incredibly hyped about. And generally speaking, I thought the God of War showing was quite strong as well, but in terms of like caliber of announcements, I thought across the board, pretty solid.
Jacob, I'm going to save you for last. I want to get your thoughts. I was not very impressed by the State of Play this year. I thought it was okay. I don't think it was bad compared to previous State of Plays. Like, we didn't see VR and we didn't see like just random slop. But going back to my expectations that I mentioned, I feel like I just don't know enough about what PlayStation's future looks like, if that makes sense. Like, I think I came into this with a lot of questions of like, okay, the live service didn't work. Okay, Intergalactic we need to see some Intergalactic stuff. Like, we need stuff to start churning, especially Blue Point is gone, Japan Studio is gone. What does the next year plus of PlayStation look like? And to me, this State of Play kind of felt like marketing the show in terms of we saw Control. I've seen Control 6 times in the last 3 days, I think, which I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get Control, that's great, but this doesn't really say anything about the future of PlayStation to me. Wolverine, we've seen it multiple times, and I didn't really love the way it looked in this showing as well. So God of War was definitely the pop for me, and I think Until Dawn also. I think it was Until Dawn into God of War. Those two really did a lot for me. But then other than that, I was like, you guys aren't really showing me. I know Little Devil Inside never came out, and it, who knows where the hell that game is. But back when we saw Little Devil Inside back in the day, you were like, oh, like this is a really nice curated game that they picked out of nowhere. Or the last State of Play in February, we had Kena 2 announced, and I was like, oh, this is really sick. I just didn't really have a lot of new games to get excited about in the next year beyond, or at least like the big caliber games, which is fine. I would still like rank it. I'd probably give it around a C, to be honest. It wasn't terrible, but I was expecting more for it to be an SGF event, to be honest.
Put some respect on Rayman Legends Retold.
Oh, I forgot about Rayman Legends. You're right. I'm sorry. Jacob, how you feeling?
I'm kind of around you, Hooper. Like, I think about the big moments in here, and apart from Laufey, I thought Wolverine. This is the showcase that sold me and said, like, oh right, Insomniac really knows how to make video games, and I should probably pre-order Wolverine and prepare myself to play it on day one. so much gore, but I was okay with it. And so if there's those two, then you have a rung down where you have like Marvel Tokon, which I think looks like, I'm not going to play it, but I think it looks phenomenal. And then you've got the Stuntmans and the Until Dawn 2s, but like you, what's after that? It's a lot of just Kamori and Tomb Raider and Rayman and Onimusha, which some of that's not first party. So I'm with you where I know that it's going to take them a while to turn the ship away from live service, and I know that some studios are already working on it, but I don't anticipate us really seeing them bang again like they did in the PS4 generation for 2 or 3 years. And so apart from getting a couple of like AAAs, a couple of like B announcements, the rest of the show was pretty forgettable. So I'm with you. If FGF was like a B plus show, this is like a C plus B minus show to me. And
I fear that they've fallen into this trap that Xbox was in for a lot of time, where Xbox announced Fable. We saw Fable, 5 years ago or something like that, 6 years ago. And we kind of just got very sporadic updates. We stopped seeing it for a while. Same with like Blade and stuff. And now I feel like, okay, we have Wolverine coming out. We have Laufey, which doesn't have a year. It's just coming soon. I hope it's 2020. You thinking it's 2028. I hope it's next year. And we have Intergalactic, which you would assume if it was before Laufey, we'd see it here. I'm just like, what is even, like, why? I'm just so confused. You know what I'm saying? Like, if this was not the time to show these things and, like, get people pumped, then, like, when is the time? And, like, how do you jump Laufey now that you've shown that? How do you, like, what does the next state of play look like? So we'll see. But Luke, you got thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was just gonna throw out, like, putting on like my PR marketing hat for a second here. I think it's a weird balancing act, and I'm not planning a PlayStation showcase, but I imagine it's a weird balancing act where you want to show new stuff, you want to show upcoming stuff, and you want to support these third-party partners and publishers and indies and strike this balance. And I think we're talking about games like Intergalactic and known things that were like, where were they? They weren't here. But I feel like if we saw everything we wanted to see at this state of play in 4 to 6 months at the next one, we'd be saying, wow, there was nothing here. What the heck? So I think they are trying to like balance the situation of have a couple compelling, really big first-party announcements at every show. And I think that's a balance of, in this case, having Wolverine that's very imminent and then having Laufey that's a little more off in the distance. But I don't necessarily think that means that Heretic Prophet is like not coming out before one or the other, or, well, I mean, it's not coming out before Wolverine, we know that, but you know what I mean. Like, I think puzzle pieces can be slotted in across these showcases as we go, depending on where the game is at or what's ready to be shown or this and that. And I don't know. I just have a lot of like empathy for the devs behind the scenes here of like, if they're not ready to show their game and Sony respects that, like, fuck yeah, that's great, in my opinion, kind of thing.
My only counterpoint to that is that, for one, the February state of play was basically the complete opposite of this. And then, because like we had a John Wick announcement, like we had God of War remake trilogy announced, in addition to what else did the Belmont's Curse, like these are a lot of like third party stuff, but it was like banger after banger after banger of like, oh, these are all surprises. And like on the PlayStation first party side, I feel like we're just kind of in the ether of like, you announce God of War remake, that is these are other titles that are just now in the ether of like, we just have no clue when we'll ever hear about them again. The Kojima game of like, hey, this might be on PS6 or whatever, that they ended on state of play. Yeah, Fizzant. It's just like, I don't really love having a lot of just random games in the ether when I don't really know what's coming beyond Wolverine. So I'm not saying that they should force them to show Intergalactic, but I'm just kind of like, what's the roadmap here? Like, when are we gonna get clarity on that?
Yeah, no, I get that. And to foreshadow kind of my thoughts on the Xbox showcase, I feel like that showcase did a better job of like, here are some updates on known things. here's a couple pleasant surprises sprinkled in, and kind of the overall package and presentation, I think, was more cohesive, I guess. In my
Jacob,
opinion, to each their own, but...
I think I cut you off by accident. Did you? Okay. Well, then let's just move right into it. Xbox Showcase was the last one. Luke, you and I watched this live together. Our first ever live viewing.
Cute.
Very, very
It was
nice.
lovely. We had bagels. It was a
We
great
did have
time.
bagels. It was great. So I kind of know how you feel about the showcase. So Jacob, I'm gonna let you rattle off your your issues, and we'll kind of walk through. I guess I'll let you put it in your own words. How did you feel about the Xbox Showcase?
Well, I'm actually just trying to find, and I'm stalling for time here, and I'm trying to find the exact messages that I sent you, because y'all were obviously together, y'all were hanging, and so I think it was just a series of messages from me.
Yes.
Maybe y'all will find them before I do. I clearly can't find them, but
I'll tell you right now what you
I was
said.
disappointed by the show. I think that they did the safest possible thing and spoke to the Xbox core fan base directly, and also structured the safest show possible. To open with, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this was the opening. It was Gears of War E-Day, followed by Fable, followed by Halo as sort of the number 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, we're doing Gears of War for like the 7th time, okay. Fable didn't do anything for me. And then, I don't know how y'all felt, we didn't really talk about this, the Halo trailer. The tone of that was weird and off in a way that I now, for Halo Productions, am like, do you know that you're making a Halo game, guys? And then to close on Call of Duty,
the Call of Duty trailer
Chloe,
was bad. I don't think that was a good showing. Yeah,
We gotta stop
think
doing that.
That said, I don't know how you showcase multiplayer well in a showcase setting like that, but I don't think it was what they did.
Honestly, I think if they would have showed the trailer that they showed to like announce Call of Duty, like the one where it's like the actor from Beef and it's the story, I feel like if you're gonna end on Call of Duty, we probably should end it with that story trailer, because it might have sold a couple people. The DMZ, not super hyped about that. But Luke, share your thoughts.
Sure. I was quite high on the showcase overall. I think there were fumbles, like I didn't like the Call of Duty trailer, but we started off with the Gears of War trailer that I thought was quite strong. I'm excited to return to Gears. It's been a long time since I've played a cover shooter like that. I think Unreal Engine 5 looks really freaking good in the level of fidelity. I also was a big fan of games like Halo Reach, so the idea of a prequel in the Gears universe in this context I think is quite compelling within like a single city, and the stuff they get into in the direct I thought just had me really sold on that. Segueing into the Halo trailer, as a big fan of the original Halo, like I wouldn't be on this podcast without my uncle introducing me to the original Halo. I thought it looked really cool. I thought it kind of fell into that camp for me of like what I remember seeing as a kid, of like this like magical space world, and the introduction of like space battles and like the vibrant color palette of all the neat purples and the giant hunters and the plasma pistols and stuff. Like I get what you mean of like tonally it didn't necessarily feel like a trailer for Halo 1, but in terms of tech that they showed of the game, I'm just excited to jump back into that, because I don't know if y'all have played Halo 1 recently, but I tried to jump into it a couple years back with Claire, and it is not as intuitive as one would think unless you really know where you're going. So I'm excited to have a modern version of that. And then we got into the Fable trailer that kind of knocked our socks off in our household as we were watching. So I think it started strong. It had some pleasant surprises throughout, and it just kept the pace for me and kept moving in a way that I was enjoying throughout.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the showcase. I think my biggest complaint would be the the Call of Duty closer. I did not like the Call of Duty closer at all, and we did it already. If this was the first time, maybe I cut them some grace. No, we're not closing with Call of Duty again. I will say, I'll give Matt Booty credit. He did tell us it was Call of Duty before it came on. Unlike the last time where we were like, whoa, what is this sick game? And then the Call of Duty logo.
I loved that trailer with Milo Ventimiglia, that one.
Yeah.
That was a better trailer than
I mean, it was a better trailer, but talk
not
about taking the wind out of your sails when you want to see literally any other IP name than Call of Duty show up after that trailer. But I as a Xbox 360 fan, this being the 25th anniversary, I thought this was about as good as of a Xbox showcase you could have. Gears, crazy nostalgia. I really enjoyed Gears 5, so I'm very excited to get back into that world. The campaigns are like 12 hours, pretty short. I'm ready to get in and out of there. Love the Fable trailer. Halo, I thought looked better than I expected. The tone, honestly, the only thing that was putting me off was Sergeant Johnson's voice. I don't know if that's the same voice actor or it's a new guy. But that didn't sound right to me. But everything else, I was like, oh, this looks fun. And in my player fantasy league, the second place person has it. So I'm like hoping it, hits low 80s, 70s. But I was like, okay, this looks kind of fun. My issue with Campaign Evolve was more on the original content because, like Luke said, it's a lot of like open space and the pace is just not what we're used to for Halo. So maybe these extra missions will help balance that out. But
I thought they were about to announce an extraction shooter. Like that's how I felt looking at it, where I'm like, is this a spin-off? Is this the game that they are talking about
I'm pretty shocked.
Doing besides campaign? And the tone, all I could think of is like is Bam Margera from Tony Hawk going to come around and grab the camera and start talking to the camera like this? Or is it going to have like Sunset Overdrive tone to it? Like that's
crazy.
That's the tone that I felt that I just was not. And look, you can see in my background if you're watching the YouTube version, I've got the Master Chief there and the Master Chief there.
Your street
And this
cred
just was
is
not
recognized. No, I hear that. That's interesting. I can see that as you're saying that, but I think when I saw the trailer, I wasn't like, oh, this is going to be the presentation of the story in game. I was like, this is some fun summer showcase nonsense we're doing here. So maybe I just had that like, and that's a lot of benefit of the doubt to give, but like that is kind of where my brain immediately went. But I think that's a fair take.
And then there were just some odd choices throughout of like that cult game was like, I don't know
like
what
the
y'all
that
no,
went,
I did not.
Crazy
what are y'all
viral
doing
on
here?
Steam. So that was like
I'm into the cult game.
To
honestly,
me, that's a
all these
Pal
announcements
World poll where like that's gonna pop off in a way that like, oh, Sarah Bond was so smart for starting that partnership conversation. I don't know if she was involved, you know what I mean? But that strikes me as something that like that type of pick strategically makes sense to me.
This showcase was a very Joseph coded showcase in that, like, even the Plague Tale Resonance, when we first saw the reveal last year, I was like, oh, I'm not sure what that game is. And to see that kind of like action-y narrative gameplay, I was like, oh, okay, I could get down with this. Same with Senua, where I was like, oh man, I don't know if I want more Hellblade. But to see that they are adding like more action and bring up the pace, which is a big issue that I had with the Hellblade 2, I'm like, okay, like it seems like they are kind of evolving and adapting to, and I feel like OG Acquisition Xbox had a lot of like throwing stuff at the wall and it all felt super disjointed. And this showcase kind of felt like, hey, we're kind of back to our roots in terms of we have the Gears, Halos, but we also have the new stuff. And I also think it was very big that Persona 4 Revival coming to Game Pass. I thought that looked great. And even though we didn't see anything for P6 being multi-platform day one Game Pass for Xbox, I think is huge because I bought a PS4 to play Persona 5. So the fact that we're one generation later getting this on Game Pass day and date, I think is really big. So, and we talked about the Magician game, Clockwork Revolution. I'm still interested in. I know Luke, you weren't too high on that trailer, but I'm very excited. And I also, Luke, the way that it kind of goes trailer to trailer with very little interruptions, I also really enjoyed that. So it was a tight hour. Got in, got out, and I'm stoked about what we saw in Bad Magpie too. Shout back Magpie.
Yes.
That game looks rad.
I think I tweeted "fuck yeah bird" when that came
Yeah,
through.
you did,
So.
Yeah, it looks rad. I was just going to throw it back to what y'all were saying about the state of play of wanting, or even just like the beginning when we're talking about expectations of wanting to have a picture of the next month, the next year of the platform. And I just feel like that showcase really did it for me, of like someone who's been on the fence of like, do I keep my Game Pass subscription? I mean, we got Halo in July. We have this kick-ass looking Plague Tale prequel in August. There's other stuff that I'm totally blanking on. Gears of War is October.
Fable's February.
Fable's February. Persona Golden.
February.
Did we say Metro? Metro's also February.
Yeah,
Metro's February.
There's
Spyro's
just
coming next year.
Spyro's coming next year. We popped off crazy.
Is that
for
an on-rails game? Do we know?
You know,
That
That game felt like it was on rails.
No, it didn't look. I don't think it's on rails for sure.
we didn't see platforming gameplay though, which is odd. That part was odd. I was excited, but
There's no way. Is Spyro? Isn't it? What did they call it? Spyro 4 or something?
no, it's Realm Reborn.
Realm Reborn.
But shout out though, Toys for Bob.
Let me actually look.
Yeah,
That's
Toys
just
for
one
Bob.
Time. Shout out Toys for Bob.
No
I was so
way. They're
stoked
still
to hear the
working.
news that they're involved because they did such great stuff with Crash, the Reignite trilogy, seeing this after they'd had their they went independent, bought back the IP or bought back their studio rights and did all that stuff, fuck yeah. So I was very hyped for that. But anyway, circling back to my point of just I feel like there's a good 6 months of games here that I'm yeah, I guess I will keep Game Pass because I do want to play all of these or at least try stuff out. And there's an alternate reality where I didn't feel that way after this showcase, I guess.
This is not on rails. I'm looking at the interview.
Okay.
I think
Good.
this is
Good.
the first time there's been full flight in Spyro, which is why there was a lot of flying in the trailer.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess when I look at the future of Xbox, the core stuff just is staying so close to the core that I'm not jazzed. Like Gears E-Day. I didn't play Gears 5, played all the others. I kind of went, I'm good. Halo doesn't do much for me. Clockwork Revolution, I think, is shaping up to be an IP that we may be talking about for a long time. And so that trailer was cool, but I think when I just think about the future of Xbox, it's almost the opposite to you, where the core games aren't doing much for me anymore, but I think that's just me as a player having shifted away from the core and less of a condemnation for Xbox. But I do think it's the weakest of the three. If you go Sony, SGF, Xbox, I think it's Xbox 3.
I disagree with that last point, but I understand where you're coming from. And it's a weird thing because I don't necessarily feel like I'm the core gamer Xbox audience, but I guess I am getting pulled into the nostalgia of oh man, it does look fun to play a Gears game again, and it's been long enough since I have. Or, I was a defender of Halo Infinite, so the fact that they're doing some cool stuff with what I loved about Halo 1, I'm
That game's not bad.
yeah, well, and it's one of those things where I'm excited about these games. Will all of these games I'm talking about be my game of the year at the end of the year? Probably not. But I'm going to have a fun weekend or two playing with friends and squadding up for some couch co-op and stuff. Hell yeah. So I think it's just I'm not looking for these games to light the world on fire, but they look like solid reasons for me to maintain the subscription, I guess, is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I think for me, I feel like this is the first time where Xbox has it's not, the engine isn't sputtering to get started. It seems like for the next 2 years they have actually found general winners with the general audience, right? As much as I love South of Midnight or
Hi-Fi Rush, maybe.
Well, no, we won't include Hi-Fi.
That's a
Hi-Fi
different.
Rush.
Yeah, we can't.
I mean, honestly, Hi-Fi Rush didn't sell that well, but yeah, I just feel like having Gears, not only Gears, but we're coming off of Forza, which did really well. I feel like the Indiana Jones pull from Machine Games, Indiana Jones did quite well from what I understand. I feel like we're now rolling into a regular cadence of, okay, we're not just putting out random slop. It seems like the quality bar has been raised a little bit. I know everybody isn't going to be jazzed for Gears, but we haven't had a Gears game in how many years? Like, when did Gears 5 come out? Like, over 6 years ago, right?
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah.
2019. Like, I get everybody, like, a lot of people who have an Xbox probably have never even played a Gears. Like, just full blank. Because, like, if you just bought an Xbox Series X, how many people said, yeah, let me start with Gears 5? And how many people said, let me replay the entire, series to this point? I don't think very many, right? So, having Gears, having the original Halo remade, I feel like, and also I'm not the biggest Halo Studios fan, so I don't know how Halo will actually play out, but Fable is like probably the first game in 2 generations where I feel like, Xbox actually has a AAA game that could compete with basically any other game on the market that year. Like, I feel like everything they've shown about it looks amazing and it appeals to a wide audience, which is what they need. And same with Clockwork Revolution. I wouldn't say it's in the same ballpark as Fable, but it looks exciting. So, TBD on 2028, because I think the big question is, Asha's here. Can they sustain that momentum? What does Blade look like, etc.? What does Skyrim look like? When do we drop the Skyrim nuke? And then what is the future of Xbox after Skyrim? I think all those questions are huge, but I'm feeling pretty good.
You mean like new Elder Scrolls, right?
Oh, yeah, I keep calling it Skyrim because that's just ingrained into my brain.
I was like, didn't we release that about 7 times?
Yeah, 6. Cool. I want to get your thoughts before we kind of like wrap up here. I want to get your thoughts on the exclusivity conversation because there's a lot of debate because Asha came in. She had a lot of word salad about possibly going back to the roots of Xbox, which potentially means exclusive. And then we got... Gears E-Day is a console exclusive. It's on PC. Clockwork Revolution will be a console exclusive. It's on PC. There's a lot of hubbub about this. I have a very specific take on it, but Luke, Jacob, I know you both have all the consoles. So does this do anything for you? Is it a big deal to you? Where are we at?
For me personally, this is the least big deal ever. For general public gamer, I understand why it matters, and at points in my life I have been a one console household, so I get it being a big deal, but I think at the end of the day, you pick the one that has the most games you want to play, and you play that one, and I think it's reasonable to have exclusives. I think it's reasonable to have multi-platform games, and I think the games that Xbox has chosen to bring multi-platform make sense to me. I don't have a problem with timed exclusive. I think what they did with Indiana Jones was logical and reasonable. I'm open. I'm kind of tired of the discourse, though, to be honest, though. I just don't think it's as newsworthy of a thing as people are making it right now.
I'm with you that people are sort of blowing it out of proportion. I've been following Matt Ball for a long time. He's now the CSO at Xbox. I think he was handpicked by Asha. He's been an analyst in the space for a very long time. And he was on stage at the Game Business Conference, which I guess Jeff is running for the business side of folks as a part of SGF. And he was asked about Sorry, what was that?
Did this happen recently? Like after the
This happened.
It's like concurrent.
It's concurrent.
Oh, okay.
I think
so
they
today,
announced it last year, I want to say.
He was asked the exclusivity question, and he actually, in great detail, went through exactly where they were at, which was actually refreshing for him to say. And folks, I think, I forget who it was, but someone was like, because they only, the clip, the end clip is just like, no comment. But before that, he spends 2 minutes walking through, like, the strategy is, first-party handpicked titles will be exclusive in perpetuity. Games that serve large live service audiences like Call of Duty Sea of Thieves will continue to be multi-platform. Then there's stuff that we've committed to that'll come out on PS5 and Switch, and we're just going to already we're going to follow that because we've already committed. And just to have, like, yes, did he go in and say what the criteria are for a game to be a big exclusive console thing? He did not. But just for him to walk through that level of detail, look, there's a world where Xbox could be a game publisher only. But I think that clearly, I think if they would have stuck the course for a few years, that could have worked. but I don't think that they're going to get the benefit of the runway to see them as a third-party publisher work, and they need to make their hardware business work. And so that's why we're seeing this pivot. And it sucks, but I get it.
Yeah, I'm of the mind that exclusives are, I think, probably third on the list of concerns that Xbox should have. I think number one, despite the Phil Spencer comment, I think you need to have really, really good games, consistent games, because as much as we love the smaller titles like South of Midnight or a Hellblade 2, it doesn't matter if those are exclusive or not. Like the sales, like if people are not buying it on Xbox, they're not really going to buy it on PlayStation either. Because I look at the past year in gaming, and if anything, this year has shown us that the PC and Xbox market is more than enough to sell lots of copies of really good games. Subnautica 2 sold 2 million on Steam in a day. Forza Horizon sold 2 million or 6 million in 2 weeks or something like that. And 300,000 of those was like the $100 version. So people will buy games that they're excited about, good games. But I just don't think the past 6 years have had many really great must-play games from Xbox. So, of course, the exclusive play didn't work. But when you look at titles like Forza Horizon 5, which went over to PlayStation and sold really, really well, it's like, well, yeah, obviously it's a good game. Indiana Jones sold well before it went to PlayStation and sold well when it went to PlayStation. So I think we're like Xbox during the Phil Spencer era got really caught up in this exclusive game and what's coming to PlayStation, what's not. But we were talking about a whole bunch of like, in nice terms, kind of like lower tier games in terms of Metacritic score, like low 80s to high 70s. Who cares if those games are exclusive or not? Like, that's not a God of War. That's not a Spider-Man 2018. They were never going to move those units. So that's the big question in the Asha regime. I don't know why we always call it a regime, but the Asha tenure, like, can she make games that appeal to large audiences and that will sell well regardless of if PlayStation is involved? Can
I just retcon what I said really quickly? The retcon I want to say is like, they have to make the hardware business work is one line, but like Game Pass in its current form clearly wasn't growing fast enough for the investments that were made. So this is also like, they would have got the runway if they would have gotten 3 years. I think they could have made the multi-plat thing make their games business more healthy. Phil wasn't given that, and so now it's a matter of like, let Game Pass continue to hum. Imagine that you've capped. Well, they actually took a chunk out of their player base on Game Pass, but like let that hum and then find ways to prop up the business. I just wanted to retcon that.
I feel bad, as bad as I can for $1 Million CEO and Phil Spencer, because they're gonna have the worst revisionist history of Phil Spencer of all time. Fable is gonna come out and people are gonna be like, Asha, you did it again, homegirl. Like, Fable is a masterpiece. Asha, she just knows how to make hits. Gears is coming out. They're gonna be like, Asha, I can't believe you brought back Gears. Phil is somewhere in his home wiping his tears with dollar bills, saying, damn, I put in all this work and they took it from me right at the last second.
Phil will eventually be right about the box. That the box is not needed anymore. Phil will be right about that.
Sure.
But I think it'll take 5 years longer than he wanted it to. Sorry, Luke.
Yes.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just going to say, I think I was essentially going to say that, and then I was also going to say, we'll always have Don Matrick trying to make Xbox One a TV box. Like, the polar ends of the spectrum. Phil had his shtick, and, now they're going in a different direction, but... Yeah, I did. We were laughing about it when we were watching the showcase yesterday, but like everyone being like, "Oh my God, Asha's changed our lives," and then she gave everyone at the show that had the fan badge Xboxes. And
only the fan badge.
Well, and it was only the fan badge.
Yeah,
I didn't hear that.
Press badge, get out of here.
No.
Damn, boomed them.
But like, and then the thing of like, all these games have been in production for years. It's not like Gears of War was just like, I greenlit Gears of War E-Day. It's like, no, this has been in development for been there years, but. Yeah, she came in at a nice time to, make some moves.
The last thing I'll say about this, and then I want to quickly talk about what we're missing in terms of games. I don't think that they need to sell 1 billion Xboxes, but they can't leave the hardware space completely, because I feel like that's when you give PlayStation full leverage to control how your games are sold, what margins they take, X, Y, and Z. As long as Xbox is around and gives people a reason to either play on PC, they've conscripted a whole PC fan base into their fight unwillingly, in that all these games are coming on PC and we're just leaving some off of PlayStation. So you could buy a PC. You don't need to buy an Xbox. Oh, and did we mention the next Xbox is a PC? So this is all, it's all like a weird little game that Xbox is playing to kind of thumb their nose up at PlayStation. And they still have Call of Duty. They still have some of the biggest games on the top 10 charts every year. They need to play their cards right, but I think they'll be okay if they don't beat PlayStation in terms of hardware sold, because that's just not going to happen at this point. All right, closing us out. The Direct has not happened yet, so there's still time. But are there any games that you all are still waiting to hear more about? A release date, an update, anything that you thought was going to be at Summer Game Fest but wasn't there? I'll kick us off so you guys have time to think about it. At Fate's End was revealed last year. People played it at that SGF and said it was like one of the best things they had played. Or actually, it wasn't SGF. It was the conference that's earlier in the year around the PAX time. Games, what's the name of that? An SF? Somebody help me out here. The developer conference.
Oh, GDC.
Oh, GDC?
Yeah.
GDC. They played at GDC. It was the game of the show. I would love to hear a release date on that. Number 2, The Eternal Life of Goldman. I need that. I think I don't know if it's on my crossplay fantasy critic or my player fantasy critic, but I need a date on that one. And the demo was amazing, so hopefully it's around the corner. Jacob, you got anything?
We haven't seen Dench Attack, but I mean that's only because Dench Attack it got delayed 1 month, but
yeah,
it's out tomorrow, I guess. Ontos is my big. Sorry, it's not out tomorrow. It's out basically tomorrow. I think they moved it from a June date to a July date, and so that's when it's out. But Ontos is the big one.
Yeah,
it is supposed to be out this year. Where is Ontos?
That's a big one. Yeah,
that's not coming out this year.
Luke?
Yeah, my 2 were. I thought we'd see Blighted from Drinkbox
at
one of the indie shows, or possibly SGF of, that's where we saw it last year. So, and folks were so hot in it at SGF last year that I kind of thought we would see it this time around. And then on the AAA side, where's Sony Bend? What are they doing? Are they okay? There was the Uncharted rumors and all of this. Like, they're working on something. I'd love to see it.
It blows my mind that Bluepoint can be closed. Meanwhile, Sony Bend has not put out a game in how many years? They're also in Oregon. It's not a low cost of living place.
I mean, Oregon's cheaper than some of the Pacific Northwest, but
Seattle.
Yeah, that's fair. As a person who enjoyed Days Gone, I would like to see them make another game. But yeah, in comparison, Bluepoint is like what that'll never make sense to me. But I digress. But I'm curious. And then with wrinkle of that, like Uncharted, rumors of a new Uncharted, would love a new Uncharted. Please give me new Uncharted. Thank you.
I know there was a lot of controversy about the lead on Days Gone, always chirping about, oh yeah, we sold this many copies, we should have.
Yeah, he's kind of a crazy dude. I don't think he still works there, but I also don't know. I don't have any ties or knowledge of that studio, so I don't know. But yeah, he's a weird person, and would go after people on socials, and I definitely don't support that. Enjoyed Days Gone for what it was and the horde mechanics and all that stuff, but
yeah, you're like a weird Days Gone defender, right? That's what I heard.
I heard that too.
I'm a normal Days Gone defender. The wedding scene was cheesy and bad. Horde mechanics and technical aspects of the game, interesting. Cool.
Okay.
Systems.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Last game we need to hear about, Kingdom Hearts 4. Are they ever going to announce that?
Ooh.
Someone check on Cam Hawkins.
Who knows? All right. This was a great episode. I appreciate getting all the input, hearing your thought. Now I know a little bit more about Jacob and what he needs next SGF. So I'm going to try and predict your thoughts on the next SGF. But until then,
some of the other showcases around were incredible. The Story Red Showcase, the Wholesome Games Showcase, PC Games Showcase, Lags.
Women-led.
Your boy ate.
Women-led.
Southeast Game Show. I ate. So we're fine.
Okay. Jacob is full. He's happy. We're all full. And we're going to digest for a little bit, everybody. So while we're digesting, we'll see you soon. Everybody enjoy your happy Switch Direct Day. Hopefully you got Zelda Remake and, I don't know, Orbital's Shadow dropped or whatever. We're going to do 4 things. We're going to set our status away. Sorry, everybody. We're going to do 4 things, all right? We're going to set our status to away. But until next time, you can follow us on BlueSky at Crossplay Convos. You can subscribe to us on YouTube and Instagram. You can send this podcast to a friend because that's how people hear about podcasts. And you can give us a review on your podcasting platform of choice because it really helps. Stay cool, nerds.